And we continue learning Dirshu Mishna Berurah Hilchos Kriyas HaTorah Siman Kof Lamed Hey. We're up to Sif Yud Beis, and this make mention that the dates are not always right on the Shirim, but the Simanim and the Sifim are. We're trying to get the Shirim up in advance, so we're trying our best to keep everything labeled properly. But anyone has any advice, please feel free to reach out. But at least this way, Baruch Hashem, the Shirim are getting up. So Sif Yud Beis begins after learning about when a Kohen should and should not get an Aliyah. Says Sif Yud Beis, Ir Shekula Kohanim, a city that the majority, or I should say that are all Kohanim. Im Yesh Yisrael Echad Beinayim, Oisa Yisrael Kari Rishon, Memnei Darkei Shalom. That Yisrael should get first to keep the peace. V'kol shekein, and certainly, V'kol she'ein b'hem Yisrael kidei sipukam, or she'ein sham Yisrael klal. There's not enough Yisraelim, or there's no Yisrael at all. Koyin acher koyin. She'ein sham misham begam. There's no issue of the begam the koyin. Shakol yadim she'ein sham el koyanim. V'adin le'ir shekula levim. So says the Mishnah Berurah Sivkatan Mem Gimel Shekula Koyanim Ainu Davka Kishein Sham Gan Kein Levi Klal. There's no Levim at all. Shein Achon Liskayim Kisei Shek Chazal. So therefore you cannot be Makayim the order of Chazal Koyin Levi Yisrael. Valkeina therefore Teiv Lishan is Nei Shalom. So therefore you should switch it up Nei Shalom. And that's why you're going to be giving the Yisrael first. Aval Yish Sham Oid Levi Echad Yikru Kisei Der HaMishnah Koyin Levi Yisrael. And the rest you're going to be giving to Kohanim. But if there's Yisrael Echad Beinayim, Sivkata Mem Daled. Avlim Yesh Shnei Yisraelim V'kol Shkein Yisrael. If there's two or more Yisraelim, U'Bechlal Mashkos V'Shulchan Aruch Achar Kach Shein B'hem Yisrael K'dei Sipukam. That goes into the next case of the Mechaber. There's not enough Yisraelim. Balkeina, therefore Yikra Kohen V'Tzchila. Give the Kohen first. V'Gam Yikra Kohen V'Kom Levi. Give the Kohen in place of Levi. V'Achar Yikra Yisraelim. Then you call the Yisraelim. The Yezra Aliyah, and whatever's left, let's say you have three Yisraelim, so you can give Koyin, Yisrael. Now we're up to Shishi, and Shvi you'll give to the Koyanim. Shnei Leviim Shnei Yisraelim. Let's say you have two Leviim, two Yisraelim. Koyin Levi Yisrael. V'achach Koyin Levi Yisrael. The Koyin Shvi. V'kol Shkein Yezra Aliyah, and Nesafa is certainly if you have any other aliyos. When they Darkei Shalom, what is the reason that we're doing this? It's because of Darkei Shalom. Sivkata Memhei. Says the Mishnah Berurah. So don't say, wait, why are you getting it on me? For Adin, and the same thing is true. For one Levi in a city of all Koyanim, that Levi gets first, time for the same reason. So if they're all at the same level, the one man who's odd out, the Yisrael or the Levi, he's going to get first, so as not to cause fighting amongst the rest. And by the way, this will obviously be one of the only cases that we'll ever have that a Yisrael is going to get an Aliyah before a Kohen. And Yikra Kohen Acher Kohen. You only have Kohen Levim. You get all the Kohanim. B'afsik Levi Bein Taim. Kohen Levi. Kohen Shu Avil. Vein Kohen Acher Beis Knesses. Someone actually asked this case yesterday. Let's say their Kohen is in Avil. There's no other Kohanim. So what do you do now? I guess, or let's say it's a case of you're in the base of Avel, and the Kohen is Avel. B'Shabbos, Motzalei Kari Kohen. On Shabbos, he's allowed to get Aliyah. So you're near a Kavelos B'Verhesia, as we know, that on Shabbos, the only level of Avelos there is B'Tzina. But B'Verhesia, there is no Avelos. So if it's in Shul on Shabbos, the Kohen will indeed get Kohen. Ubechol, and during the week, Lo Yale. Daval also B'Divrei Torah. Mekol Makkah and Bein Bechal, Bein B'Shabbos, Yisrael Sheitim T'chliv, Knesset V'Yikri, Yisrael Levi, B'Makkah Koyin. What's best is that he shall leave Shul, someone else will get the Aliyah. So let's take a moment and let's look at the Dirshu over here, note number 51, regarding Avelos Bifar Hesia. Says the Dirshu. Let's say someone always gets Shlishi, and he becomes an Avil. Says Shulchan Aruch in Yeridea. This happened to Rabbeinu Tam, and they didn't call him up, but he went up himself for the Aliyah. And he said that since he always gets his Aliyah every single Shabbos, there if he did not get the Aliyah, it's going to see that the only reason is because of Avelos, and that's called Avelos B'Far Hesia. So fascinating, maybe certain Rebbos or Rabbanim that always get a particular Aliyah, Even during Avilus, they're going to be allowed to get such an aliyah. Why? Because he doesn't want to look like Avilus b'fer Hesia on Shabbos. Me'idach. On the other hand, the Maharshal says, no, even on Shabbos, you should not get the aliyah. Shaz the Shari Ephraim, that is our minhag. And similarly, continues Dirshu over here. Let's say the Avel is making a bris. I guess, Rahman al-Islan, but at least, bittersweet, as they say. Says the Marshal, the Taz, the Nachla Shiva, he does not get an aliyah. The Pri Chadash says, no, he gets an aliyah. Why? Because we say Mishaber for the Aviyah Ben when he goes up to aliyah. And if he doesn't get the aliyah, then it's going to be Avilos b'fer Hesia. Again, we're talking about on Shabbos. Shabbos, you don't have Avilos b'fer Hesia. So if someone is making a bris, says the Pri Chadash, he should get the aliyah so that he can make this Misha Berach. If not, it's a form of Avilos b'fer Hesia. Everyone knows. Why did he not get the aliyah? Because he's an Avel. Says the Knesset Gedolah that even nowadays you do not get the aliyah. Sefer Shalmei Sibur says, could be that the Pri Chadash is talking about a case that the bris is in shul, and in that situation, lo yachlak ha-knesses ha-gedolah. They wouldn't argue. The Derech Chaim comes along, and he says that there were noyeg to call in the Torah. Then don't be meich if someone takes, if an aval takes such an aliyah. Shari Ephraim says, like the Machmir, we should not get the aliyah. Comes on the Shel Shuvas Das Eish, that all the aliyahs, any chiyav aliyah you would get even during Avilos on Shabbos. Says the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, it's better not to be in the shul at the time of Kriyas HaTorah. Similarly, Rav Nissi Krelitz says the same. What about a chassan who's in Avel? Says the Stei Chamed that we give him an aliyah like he normally gets. Afraf, chassan gets aliyah. Comes along, the Shuvah does ish again. That all these aliyahs, any chiyav you're allowed to get. And that's what Yosef says, according to this Das Yosef, even if no one has a girl, the minhag is to get the aliyah to give her the Kriyas Shem to name the baby. She'll be able to get the aliyah. But Lamaisa comes along with Nissi Karelt, and he says it is better not to be there at time of Kriyas HaTorah. Basically, what we're freaking out of over here is in such a situation, you have to ask a shayla, but definitely the severity of an Avel getting an aliyah during his Avilos, and we see the severity of being noyig Avilos b'far Hesia. And from here we continue. One more dirshu over here, that during the week, the Avel is also Divrei Torah, therefore he's not going to get the aliyah. On Tisha B'Av Shachar, says the Shari Tshuva, an Avel is able to get the aliyah, because everyone is also Talmud Torah at that time. Rechaim Pelagi says the Avel gets aliyah only if there's no other Raki Mishlei Hechrach, he has to. When does he have to leave the shul? Says the Kitzur, before they take out the Torah. Shari Ephraim says, before they begin the Kriyas HaTorah, different precise times that Avel potentially would have to leave in order that he doesn't get involved in an issue that he should be getting an aliyah. We continue with Sif Yud Gimel. Says the Mechaber, Im Katan Koyer B'Torah B'Tzibur B'Siman Reish Beis. Whether a Katan could read, we have to look in Reish Beis. Min Koina L'Sumo Yisheina Baki B'Siman Kuf Lametes. So Sif Yud Gimel is more of a Marmakayim, pointing to where we're going to get a Mirza Hashem. Sif Yudal B'nei Adam Achas Shuv Beis Asur, and someone who's in jail. Ein Mevi'in Etzlan Sefer Torah Avilu Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. We do not bring to them a Sefer Torah, even Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. Says the Ramav and Adavka B'Shas Kriya Levad. That's only for bringing them the Torah just for the Kriya. Avlim Mechinim Loi Sefer Torah. If they have a Torah in jail, Yoyma Yomayim Kodim a day or two beforehand, Mutter, then it is allowed. V'im Hu Adam. And we do not have the continuation of this, so we're going to have to finish this Ramah tomorrow. But before we do that, let's just begin this Ramah in the Mishnah Berurah, understanding what's going on. Hachavushen bebeis asur, and someone who is in jail. For someone who is sick, there are those who argue on this whole din. Kivin da'anusimim, they're nainis. Parsha Zachashu Daraisa, says Mishnah Berurah, Bevade we can make them bring them a Sefer Torah. But after do I didn't got Parshas Para. Ein Mevi and Sefer Torah. Why are we not bringing them a Sefer Torah? So Mishnah Berurah says, if got them Zayin, they likros baba asaros, they could get read with an aliyah or the minion. Vatam shel zilzol ule Sefer Torah lanicha lanashish tzrichol. To bring the Torah to people that need it. The cover of the Sefer Torah is people should go to it. Ein bir halacha shekasanda davke she'in sham asara. Sheshasara chavusha mutter says the bir halacha, if there's 10 people that need the Torah, then it is allowed. If you Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippurim Sefkadim Memchas, Ma Shalchom Beis HaKnesset Minyan HaNashin, He's a bayis when I say Sefer Torah Imam Gdei Likroy Sham. People go to house and do Kriyas Torah there. Vadai Einoi Nachain. It's not appropriate. Why? They could have heard it in shul. Someone are give a limas chos. Everyone wants to get their own aliyah. So on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, they go make a separate kriyas. They can get it on aliyah on this auspicious day. It's a zilzal of the Torah to move it around for this. To move from shul. We should sell the aliyahs. I'll be right. See how important we have to be about the tzedakah, that if we do something, it's going to cause the shul to lose money. Very important. However, let's say they also sell it. Let's say now there's more money to tzedakah. Then he should not be machar. So said the Ramah, but if the Sefer Torah is there a day or two beforehand, Sifkatim Emtaz, V'achreinim Eskimu. Do I didn't make an makam na Sefer Torah, ba'isa yoyim, she'munach sham, if they have a place prepared for the Sefer Torah, yoyim yomayim she'munach sham yoyim yomayim d'shaper dami b'lvad, she'nechua sham b'makom she'echen koidim zman kriya, it should be in that place before the Kriyas Torah. P'shas kriya yoytzi'anu, and then you take it out of this Aron Kodesh, you take it out of this place that's holding it at the time of the Kriya. V'yikru b'avachech zenu l'sham. Because then it's not noticeable that you're bringing it for the Kriya, as it has a place. Because it's in this place for this amount of time. So let's see the dirshus over here. Very important about moving around a Sefer Torah. So first of all, Dirshu number 56 points out, what about a Sefer Torah that's possible? The Das Kedoshim is mistapek if you let him move it from place to place. Now, if Yehuda says Sefer Torah that's possible, there still has Kedusha on it. He's medayik from the Rambam. Only, the Haggais Gedolei HaKodesh of the Das Kedoshim say no, this is only a din of a kosher Sefer Torah. What about a place that has no Sefer Torah? When you see in Kuf Mem Gimel, they should read from a Chumash without a bracha, so they don't forget Torah's Kriya. This is something that COVID became a big shayla. If you can't have Kriyas Torah, you should at least read it from a Chumash. But this in Siman Kuf Mem Gimel, which we're going to have to get to, is talking about a minyan. It's not talking about everyone in their own house. She'll have to get there. He says over there, but you don't call anyone up for an aliyah. Just a Sheikh Sibur should read from a Chumash. In note number 58 over here, even to bring it with the Aroin, says Rav Moshe Feinstein that it is Asr. So this is where we have to understand. This, at the end of the Mishnah Berurah that we just read, we saw that if you bring it with a makim for it, then there is something that's okay. But now, just to bring it in the Aron Kodesh, Rav Moshe is still not happy about, and he says it is Asr. Now, what about a shul that has only one Sefer Torah, and someone has another Torah elsewhere, and they want to bring it to shul when they need two Sefer Torah? It says Shalshush b'nei Aaron, then it is mutter. Why? Because you're bringing it for that purpose, so therefore that's going to be okay. If there's 10 people in jail, we said that it's going to be mutter. Let's say it's a freezing cold shul, so no one can daven there. Says the Shut Beis Sha'arim, you're allowed to bring the Sefer Torah to a different place during the Kriya. That's different than being in jail, because the entire tzibur is on us. Shakal kavod at tzibur ki kavod at Torah. So now again, we're slowly picking up fine nuances when you be allowed to move a Torah. Here we're seeing that if the entire tzibur is leaving and they're not going to be there, then it's going to be easier to move the Sefer Torah. Vadai einai nachain. Excuse me. Oh, 1 second. I just realized we have the end of the Ramah. Okay, we'll get there in a moment. Pardon. To move the Sefer Torah from room to room. Dirshu number 60 says the Gain, it is forbidden. The Beis Shleimai, Beis Sha'arim, the Ramatz, Mati Yehuda, they all say if it's within one house, it's not a problem. Similarly, Das Kedoshim says as well that that's going to be okay, but Das Kedoshim adds on Toiv lemai tiltil. You shouldn't move it so much. You have to realize the severity of just moving around the Torah. Perhaps even within one house, different rooms you should not do. But that there seems to be a makkah to be mekel. And the Samas Chaim, Yischaim Zanfeld says the same thing. If you're davening the Azara, you're davening the Ezes Nashim, davening in the court, you're davening in different places, what you should do is you should go into the shul and not move the shul out to you. So again, that will definitely be the Lachatchila, the additional minion, to go into the shul and don't bring the Sefer Torah out. But one second, I just realized that we have the Ramah here, so let's just read the end of the Ramah. Again, what was the end of the Ramah? The Ramah concluded that if the Torah is in the jail for a day or two beforehand, it's okay. Ve'emhu adam chashiv, but if the person in jail is an adam chashiv, then b'chol inyan shari, says the Ramah. So back to the Mishnah Berurah, Sivkatan Nun, ve'emhu adam chashiv ratzaleimar. Kadol ba'Torah ta'adarabah ha'Torah mis'alim edei nashim gedolim v'lav zilzal etzla. If the person that you're bringing the Torah to is an adam chashiv, then it's a kavod to bring the Torah to him. Vayim b'sefer Shem Lamar, says the Mishnah Berurah, as we continue to b'chashiv, afilu einoi anus shari. Even if he's not in oines, maybe it's he's just not well, or whatever the case is, you let to bring the Torah to him. Yish machmir b'chashiv l'chod, v'tayv sheyachan makim, you should prepare for the place. V'cholin in shari, ainu afilu b'li achanais makim. So let's finish up over here with the Dirshus that continue that number 61. It talks about what about in Simchas Torah, to bring a Sefer Torah, the basic Simchas Torah. We're going to see in Taf Reish Samach Tes that there's machlekes exactly what you should do regarding bringing the Sefer Torah around for Simchas Torah. The Kaf Chaim says it's mutter because that's the covenant of the Torah, and he adds on that there's a minhag from the Beis HaMikdash. The Yishari Ephraim says that the minhag is that we should not be moicha. Those that do this, we should not be moicha. Whereas the Aruch HaShulchan says it is for. Continues the Dirshu over here that to bring a Sefer Torah to a place, there's going to be a minion for a chasen b'Shabbos or for Sheva Brachas. So this is where we really get into the crux of what's going on over here. The Ramah discussed bringing a Torah to a jail, but now we want to know, someone's making a simcha, tachlis, can he take a Sefer Torah along for the simcha? Comes along Ramosha Feinstein, Chelik Al Siman Lamadal, and he says that is mutter. Because the Krayvi Achasan and the Kala, they want to get the Aliyah on the day of their simcha, and to go to shul for whatever reason they're not able to, they're making a private simcha. That's called a kavod Torah. Ramosha adds on, the Chasan is Taimer LaMelech, and therefore he's a din like the Adam Chashav, which the Ramah said he allowed to bring the Torah. And based on the Tashbeitz, even if, based on the Tashbeitz, they say, I think this is still Ramosha talking, that if someone is very wealthy, do the Ashiras, he has din of an Adam Chashiv, even if he's not a Tal Chacham. Whereas on the other hand, the Riyosher says, no way, nothing doing. The Marsham says, nothing doing. Don't bring the Sefer Torah for such an occasion. To bring a Sefer Torah to a place for Slichai, so it should be there to open up the Aron Kodesh for Shema Kalinu, Avinu Malkeinu, says in the Sikarel, it says, V'chayin Kanievsky, that is mutter, because that's considered a Dvar Mitzvah, and therefore, it's going to be a kavod, and it's going to be a kavod for the tefillah. To take a Sefer Torah, Likriya Sefer Torah Chadash, when they're bringing into the shul, they bring out the other Torahs to greet it, says the Birkei Yosef, and the Mriya Buav, that is allowed. Again, because we're trying to figure out, is it a kavod of the Torah, or is it a zilzal of the Torah? To bring out the Torah to greet the king, says the Pesach Shuv and Reish Pei Beis, the name of the Marsh Katz, that we should not be meicha those that do this because of the kavod malachim. So we're not talking about even a Jewish king over here. We're talking about they used to take out a Torah to greet a Goyish, a king, for kavod malachim. It says don't be meicha. The Sefer Chinuch says that in Shem Yivcharu b'mnei Levi sheyisu oisai kishem shehem ayonis and Aaron tava alem bracha. Meaning we try to find out the best way to give the Sefer Torah kavod. Now, what does it mean that you have to have the Torah there in jail a day or two beforehand? This lashon of Yom Yamayim comes along the Buchacha, and he says it's similar to what we've seen in the Achrayim in Tafnan Gimel with regard to grinding the wheat before the kneading the dough. That lechatchila it should be 2 days, and if it can't be, it's okay even if it's 1 day. Now, Where does this come from? Says Dirshu note number 63 that anytime you bring your Sefer Torah, read from it 3 times. We just finished learning the Shulchan Aruch. The Ramah didn't mention anything like that. So says Yerushalayim Zalman Avrach and Alicha Shleima, this comes Ein Lozeh Shum Yisoid. This comes from nowhere. There's no foundation to this idea that you have to read from a Torah 3 times when you bring it somewhere. We saw what you have to do. We saw that it has to have a makom, it has to have a place, has to go to that place, and that's the way, and has to be there beforehand for lechatchila 2 days, or if not, at least 1 day. Comes on the Aruch HaShulchan and he brings this minhag, and he says, you know what the reason is? Because the 3 kriyas is considered that you're moving the Torah for a tzarech kavua. You're not just moving it for no purpose. But less than this you should not do, because that's called aray, and there is a bizayon. Comes along with Moshe Feinstein, and he says as well, the best is that you read from it 3 times. Rav Elyashiv says the same thing, that this is not really mentioned nachreinim, but says Rav Elyashiv, lamaisa, people are makbid like this, and therefore it's only going to make things better, and therefore that should try to be done. So again, what's coming out over here is that to bring it a Torah for no purpose is very, very not pashit. To read from it 3 times has some level of validity, we'll say, based on Aruch HaShulchan and Rav Moshe Feinstein. Just to have, but the way to do it is to have a place for the Sefer Torah, and not just have a place for the Sefer Torah, but that the Sefer Torah should be going into that place and out of that place, and give the Sefer Torah as much kavod as possible.